the biggest question that the buyers will be asking right now, ever since the launch of the Proton X70, is, should I buy this one or should I buy the X70? Now that's a tough question, and I can tell you all the other makers are feeling the same issues when it comes to selling their cars. Of course, if you are selling a Porsche Macan and the buyer wants to buy a Proton X70, you really can't say no. You can go buy the X70, but you can buy the Macan too. Yeah, probably the buyer. I know some Porsche owners who have bought the X70 because they said, oh, it looks pretty good. Yeah, so they just bought it. Yeah, they can afford to buy a X70 like they can afford to buy kacang putih, you know, for the day. Yeah. So, but with getting back more to the real world situation where we have normal people with normal lives, you can only afford one car. Then the question is, should I pay $143,888 for this Hyundai Tucson, or should I pay $123,800 for the Proton X70? Okay, that's a tough question, which the Hyundai people will be trying to answer, of course. And of course, as the buyer, you are even under more stress because you have to make the final decision which one to buy. Okay, if price is a issue, then I would just go for the X70 lor. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with the X70. It's a pretty good package, and if there's anything that the X70 has proved, is they have proved that you can actually sell a car at $123,800 and still make decent money. Which means to say they have now set a new benchmark in terms of price versus device, yeah, price versus specs lah. So Proton has proven that it is possible to build a car to the spec of the X70 Premium, yeah, and sell it for $123,800. So Hyundai sells this car at $143,888. The difference is a little bit over 20,000 ringgit. Sounds familiar, yeah, the number? So, what are the differences? Well, the X70 has got a 6-speed automatic, and this one has a 7-speed direct clutch transmission. Yeah, I can go on and write a book about why the DCT is better than the automatic. But somebody else can also write a book and say, oh, the automatic is more reliable because it's more proven. It's been around for so many years, and nowadays automatics are quite good. Yeah, the DCT is also the future of transmissions, you know, and it's got 2 clutches and blah, 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 blah. But whatever it is, in terms of usage, I think the DCT is a bit better, you know, and you can see that a lot of the new cars are moving towards DCT, especially those that want a little bit better performance, and even the Honda HR-V hybrid runs a DCT because that is the technology that's coming. Now, in terms of CVT, it's here. It's a cheap gearbox, and it also promotes good fuel consumption. Driving is not so much fun unless you're driving slow. At this speed, it doesn't matter what gearbox you have, yeah. But anyway, the DCT here has, you know, we're going at 100 kilometers per hour, and we are barely pulling 2,000 RPM. So it's pretty good. Okay, I'm in 7th gear, and so this will promote actually good fuel consumption. So back to the gearbox. Is there any advantage? Driven at slow speed and all that, when push comes to shove, yeah, it's just a gearbox, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, both behave the same. It's like an automatic, you don't have to worry about it. So if you want a DCT, the little bit of difference for DCT, is it worth the 20,000? No, it's not just the DCT, there are other things, yeah. So the engine is different. It's a Hyundai engine, of course. And in terms of horsepower, this Tucson has 175, okay, and the X70 has 181. The difference of 6 PS is not really that much, but in terms of driving, I think the Tucson is a little bit better than the X70 in terms of gearing and get up and go, because with the 7 speeds and the DCT, which is more direct, then the transfer of power is better and there's less power loss. So the Tucson feels a bit more perky. But is it a deal breaker? Not unless you're really, really very, very finicky and you can feel the difference of 3 or 4 horsepower. So actually, in terms of engine, both the engines have the same technology. Both of them are direct injection engines, so they are actually at the forefront of technology, and both are turbocharged. Now the question is whether which will last longer or not, but a lot of that depends on the user. Yeah. So the parts world now is global. Yeah, it's quite what you call seamless, and you can have 2 different cars using the same turbo. Yeah, they could be using the same gearbox, for all you know, and it's just that they just brand it different and they put a different cover on the engine and it looks like a different engine. So there's a lot of platform sharing here and there. Of course, I'm not saying that Hyundai shares with Proton, but parts nowadays are quite, the world is quite seamless lah. So if you say there's a bad part, well, it won't survive very long. And anyway, in terms of branding, that's the main difference in the pricing. Yeah, some brands believe they can command a bit more, so they sell the cars higher to the distributor. So the distributor has to sell it higher. He's got no choice. Okay. Now that the Proton has come in and set a new benchmark on pricing, maybe as the consumer we will get better prices, but we don't know. Yeah. Now, so the question is, you need to ask yourself, do I pay the 20,000 more for this car? For a car based on the spec, this is very similar to the X70. There's nothing much to tell the cars apart, except for a little bit of difference here and there. Yeah, so it's a brand thing. So if you think that the Hyundai brand value is worth the 20,000, yeah, by all means go ahead. But if you don't care about brand, then you know what to do. Yeah. So I'm not trying to sell any one car. There are lots of preferences, and it's not that everybody will follow what I say, because this Hyundai is a good car and it's still selling, and the X70 is another good car and it's still selling. Which brings us back to my previous video when we talk about the Arus and the Rush. Yeah, so it's about branding. So it depends on you. Of course, the Hyundai brand has been struggling a bit in this country. Not to say they don't make good cars. Since about 10 years ago, they've been starting to make very good cars, and we have talked about it before. But somehow the brand has not been able to latch on and gain the reputation. Yeah, of course, they do have a good service network and all, but then so does Proton. So much is to be seen in the near future when the cars start to wear down and parts need to be replaced. Hyundai has been here for a longer time than the X70 lah. But of course, Proton has also been here for a very long time. So whether the parts backup and service backup, service know-how can back up X70, and whether the Hyundai parts and service can back up this Tucson in terms of parts and service, only time will tell. Now, the X70 is also known as the Boyu in China. And in 2018, more than 250,000 units were sold. Now, if there had been anything wrong with the cars, they would have known and they would have corrected. So in terms of parts and technical know-how, I'm sure there has been enough learning. So whether it's transferred here correctly or not is another matter, but we don't know. So I'm not making any assumptions. So in terms of parts, I think there shouldn't be any problems. Okay, there are some cosmetic parts that were made for converting the car to Malaysian spec, including making the right-hand drive parts. But I don't think those will be any major issue. Now, in terms of the Hyundai engine, this 1.6 turbo is also a very well-used engine throughout the range, not only in Hyundai, but also in the Kia range. Okay, they share the same engine and platform across two brands. So you can see this 1.6 engine in the Elantra, you see the 1.6 engine in the Cerato, and several other models, yeah, in the Hyundai and the Kia range. So this is by no means an engine that's by itself. Okay, the 6-speed gearbox, of course, that is on the standard Tucson, which runs a 2-liter. Even that engine is also shared across the board. So I wouldn't worry about parts on the Hyundai, and also reliability, because this engine is also very well proven. The gearbox, this is the early days of the DCT for Hyundai, but of course I'm sure they are working with some global manufacturer on the supply, or even manufacturing it under license. So I wouldn't worry about that too much either. So finally, it all comes down to a choice of brand. Yeah. That's it. Thanks for watching.